Okay, so usually we'll do like, kind of a goofy little intro type deal, if you're down for that. My idea on this one, since it's racing, you tell me what you think. I'm thinking we kind of like just build the shell, just like the front outer shell of a car, and we can put it on some green screen so it's not, too big. But then we could go out to like locations with our own cars to shoot like wide shots, but it's not gonna be anything big. So we can just do the front and, get some costumes. We could have like, somebody for costumes, right? That wouldn't be too much. And green screen in the background so they can put in the CGI of like different locations, and the CGI locations we can match to whatever, out in the parking lot or whatever, that would be cool. And so you're going from one way, I'm coming from another. We'll probably need like just one stunt guy though for when, because I'm thinking we wreck and then explosions, so we'll need like a pyro team or special effects or whatever you want to call it, and but then the explosion, like we can amp it up with CGI, right? That'd be cool. And then we walk out, cool guys don't look at explosions type deal. I'll throw in some music, maybe some, Metallica or maybe even the Beatles, like nothing that's going to cost us a lot of money to put in there, you know what I'm saying? And then that's kind of where I'm at right now. What are you thinking?
Well, what I think, Philip, is that is a really great movie. It's just not your movie. So, no.
Everybody, welcome to Tavern Talk by Initial Reaction. I'm Philip, and joining me this week, Mr. Tim Jackson. Tim, hey, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
Tim is a writer and a producer, Category 1 Entertainment, and so we're thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
For just taking the time to be here. It's a good chunk of time this evening.
Yeah, it is.
Because we saw a 2.5-hour movie, and that movie we're talking about this week is Ford vs. Ferrari. It's a new movie from James Mangold. I was excited for this one. Where were you at coming into it?
I like James Mangold movies.
Yeah.
Interesting. A guy that made Copland and Wolverine.
Right, yeah.
And then Ford versus Ferrari.
Right.
And Walk the Line.
I was going to say, I love Walk the Line so much.
I love the diversity of what he does. These are the kind of movies that I love. Like, sometimes when I see a movie, I think, okay, I'm glad I didn't make that. I'd rather watch that than make that.
Right.
And then sometimes I see movies where I go, okay, well, that's the kind of movie I'd love to make.
Okay.
So I love, I would never want to make a Star Wars movie.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
But I love Star Wars movies,
right?
But when I see a movie like Moneyball, or I see a movie like Capote, or I see a movie like Ford versus Ferrari, I go, that's the kind of movie that I'd love to give 2 or 3 years of my life to make.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it, because this is, besides it just being a lot of movie, it does feel like one of those just kind of old school.
Absolutely.
Like, it's based on a true story. If you're not familiar with like the premise of it, this is based on the 1966
Le Mans race in France.
Yeah, and it is
a 24-hour race.
Yeah, see, I didn't know any of that. Like, I'd seen the trailer, and that was kind of all I knew about the race, the race in general. Like, I don't know much about the racing world, period. So this 24-hour race in Le Mans, and it's Ken Miles, who's played by Christian Bale, and Carroll Shelby, who's played by Matt Damon here. They have to kind of come into this corporate world of Henry Ford II and do his bidding to try to beat Ferrari, but they have their own thing. They know what they're doing. Like, racing is in their blood, and Ken is this driver who is just so pure and like doesn't deal with the business side of it all, whereas Carroll's kind of like this legendary driver, and now he's kind of, I guess he goes on to be a car designer.
Well, and also an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So he's not just a racer. He knows how to make a business out of it. He knows how to exploit his gifts to make money.
Right.
And Christian Bale doesn't.
No, Damon's character is yes, definitely more well-rounded than Christian Bale's. And so they kind of have to deal with Ford, the company, and like their interference in trying to, I mean, they are essentially trying to protect the brand almost, but they're interfering to the point of just almost making themselves, getting in the way of themselves.
Right.
And that's kind of personified through Josh Lucas, who's the villain here. And
interesting that Josh Lucas, that in 2019, a guy who was going to be a heartthrob in the lead in every movie he was in, right?
Yes.
Is now like number 6 on the call sheet and playing the villain. And he's the character that feels, he's the only character in the movie that feels a little on the nose to me.
Yeah.
Right?
It's nonstop.
Yeah, but everybody else in that corporate world feels complicated and real.
Yeah.
Like you get what motivates Tracy Letts' character, Henry Ford II. Yes. You see him having a full range of emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. This is yeah. Josh Lucas he plays one. I mean, and that may not be on him, or it may have been in the script.
Exactly. I can't believe I'm going to pick extend this conversation, but there were a couple of times that I kind of thought, any minute now, Josh Lucas is going to twist his mustache, and be a little,
that's the note he gets to play the whole movie. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Don't let that put you off, though. This is a really solid movie.
Yeah, no, this is one of those movies, and I almost said before we started filming here that it's almost one of those old school like sports dramas.
Yeah.
That is just you kind of know the beats of where it's going and how it's gonna play out. But that doesn't make it any less endearing, and I think racing is enough of a sport that hasn't been done to the point that we haven't that sport is saturated in way of movies.
Well, it's interesting though, like if you go back to and this is going to get a little meta, but if you go back to the actual time frame in which this movie is set, there were a lot of movies about racing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's because Steve McQueen was a racer.
Oh, okay.
Robert Redford made a movie about racing.
Yeah.
And so there's, racing was big and sexy at that time in the world. It always has been in the rest of the world.
Okay.
Here in America, it was kind of NASCAR, and they refer to that.
Yes.
But racing has, been a big sport around the world, and at that time, in the late '60s, mid '60s, late '60s, early '70s, it was really big in the culture. Formula One, Le Mans, all of those kinds of things. So I think the movie does a good job too of kind of capturing the spirit of that in the time that the movie's set in.
Yeah, and see, I kind of just defaulted to think, oh, this is a movie about it, so obviously it's just going to make this feel like the only thing in the world that matters at the moment,
Yeah. But it was a big deal.
But that makes more sense, especially.
There was a time that bowling was on TV.
I don't even.
You're too young to know that, but there was a time where fishing shows were on Saturday and bowling shows were on Saturday and racing.
I vaguely remember going into bowling alleys and there being ashtrays.
That's right. Exactly.
That's right. I kind of remember that. No, this is it's one of those movies. I saw one person describe it as like, this is the kind of movie that should play on TNT forever. And it's kind of like, but that's not a bad thing necessarily.
No, absolutely
because
not.
it's just all around just a good movie. Like, let's talk about. I guess let's start with the characters here, because you've got Christian Bale and Matt Damon, just like giving it their all. Like I was in it.
Well, yeah. So let's start there and say this. Of course, in the news recently, there's this whole thing about Martin Scorsese dogging on Marvel films, and then he wrote a really thoughtful piece in the New York Times. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
The piece that he came back and explained himself. But I think a lot of what he was getting at, I agree with. There are movies that start with plot, right?
Right.
Like there's a story and the characters are interchangeable. We're just trying to get from A to B. And then there are movies that start with character. And the movies that I love the most are movies that say character first, story second, plot third.
Okay.
So a lot of movies that we're critical of, or that people dismiss, they start with plot.
Yeah.
And characters are one-dimensional because it's just kind of like, we need characters here to move this plot.
They're
forward,
gonna, yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
So the movies that I love the most, and the movies that I'm most drawn to even be part of, they start with, who are these characters as fully formed human beings?
Right.
What's the most interesting thing that ever happened to them? That's the story.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what are the beats? That's the plot. That's the third. That's the last consideration.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than we have to get to the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And,
No.
and really, like even with the Marvel movies, as much crap as maybe they take from people who are critical, they've done a really good job of like developing characters over a long period of time that you're kind of seeing those arcs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, so to say yes and amen to what you said. I think these are compelling characters all around. Damon's character, Christian Bale's character. I think the actress, what is her name, that plays Christian Bale's wife is fantastic.
Yeah, and I had not seen her in anything before. I can, look her up real quick.
But all the characters.
You also have like John Bernthal in
Absolutely.
there playing the head of marketing at Ford.
Lee Iacocca is a real person.
Yeah,
he did invent the Mustang.
Okay, you see, and I recognize that name.
Yeah.
Like when he said that, I was like, oh, that's
a
I know
big
that's
deal.
somebody.
That's a
I know
big deal.
that's somebody.
Absolutely right.
Her name is Catriona Balfe.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, their whole relationship and dynamic
Absolutely.
was great. Their son is Peter Noah Jupe. If you've seen A Quiet Place, Suburbicon Wonder, he is in that. He was really good.
Right.
Like even the father-son dynamic there, because really this is a movie about. It really is about. It does start with the characters because yes, this set of plot points could have happened to any number of people, but because of Ken Miles' attitude and just disregard for kind of everything outside of just his passion, and then you were talking about Shelby's just ability to sell himself, but still like he has that genuine skill.
Absolutely.
Like he's actually talented, but he knows how to position it depending on who he's talking to. And which is a skill in and of itself.
Right.
But it really
Ray McKinnon does a fantastic turn.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Phil, they call him Pops.
Yeah.
And they used him beautifully.
I loved the way they used him. I loved that his role was as substantial as it was here. There was. We said Tracy Letts.
Tracy Letts is fantastic.
But there's one scene in this where it's just like, man, I have not appreciated Tracy Letts.
Again, back to that full range of emotion.
Yes.
And that's what I was telling you before, because I just talked to Ray recently and said, if Tracy Letts is not a good person, don't tell me. Because I love to see him so much, and he's getting used. He was great in The Post.
Yeah.
Fantastic in The Post.
Yeah.
He's such a good actor, and he's a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright.
Yeah, I was gonna say we know he can write. Like he's this fantastic,
fantastic. August Osage County.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But he used to do bit parts on television.
Right.
He's in a Seinfeld episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He's in a Seinfeld episode as again, like number 14 on the call sheet, plays a minor character in one episode. And there's a great, if you haven't seen it, go watch Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. The episode with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Okay. Because she tells Jerry Seinfeld. Do you remember that episode that we were in, and the guy placed a bet for me at the on a horse, and I asked him, how did my horse do? And he said they had to put him down. And Seinfeld's like, yeah. And she goes, that's Tracy Letts. And he's like, who? And she goes, he wrote August Osage County.
We had him in a bit
So
part.
here's a guy, from sitcoms to playwright
nuts.
to really not acting that much, and now he's fantastic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like I've seen him in a lot more recently, but there's the scene I'm talking about, and it's in the trailer.
Yeah.
So you'll know it if you've seen the trailer, but like that scene puts you literally like in the driver's seat, and it gives you that aspect of how tough this actually is. And I just thought that little bit was great, and how it related being in that role to like an everyday average Joe kind of deal.
And that scene, but that scene again, without giving it away, that's the build up before that scene and the payoff of that scene is so good. And I think one of the things that really speaks to what a good, interesting filmmaker that James Mangold is that scene has humor in it, but you could have just played it as a joke.
Yeah.
Right. You could have just played it straight for laughs. But there's a real deep emotional core to that scene that is awkward and funny, but also very touching.
Yeah, you immediately know
that this is happening on a deeper level for this
Yeah.
character. Like, this isn't an actor going for a laugh. This is
No.
a character that is having a cathartic moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He even says, like, I wish my dad was here.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And even in Damon's face, you can see, like, he's not just doing this necessarily to prove a point, but he's like, you can just tell he's like, you think you know, but you don't appreciate what it takes.
And I think there's something else there, too. I think what registers on Damon, too, is there's a moment where he regrets that he even did it. Right?
Okay.
Remember? Because he says, when Christian Bale's character asks him, do you have a plan? And he goes, yeah, it's high risk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's got this idea, like, if I can get that guy in the car, I can change his mind.
Right.
But I think there's a moment there, and again, not to give too much away, but I think there's a moment there where when Henry Ford is like processing what he's just been through, you can almost see on Damon's character's face where it's kind of like, should I have even done that?
Yeah.
It's like, so again, it's that full range of emotion.
Should
it's
I
kind
have,
of like
should I have given him?
no, I think it's just almost like, this is a little more emotion. Like, I was just trying to prove a point.
I thought you meant maybe like
No, I think
he doesn't deserve to be in this world.
no,
yet.
I don't think it's that at all.
Okay.
I think it's the humanity of a guy, because again,
gotcha.
Matt Damon's character is dealing with the real frailty of his own.
Yeah.
Right. And
No,
so I
that's
think
true.
there's a mortality there, there's a frailty there, and I think it's almost like I was
That's true.
gonna prove a point.
Yeah.
And I did it, and then it's almost like, did I go too far?
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Did I bite off more than I can chew? And then it's kind of like, no, I'm gonna go in for the kill now. Like,
Yeah. No, and
those are great moments.
It's just good. Like it's just a good movie. Like I said, it was 2.5 hours, but I would watch it again right now, and it's
Right.
it's like
It's like-
but I also wanted to say Matt Damon's doing a really good Tommy Lee Jones.
He's
there.
doing a pretty good time. You know what? Now that you say it, I didn't think about. I was going, yeah, he's putting the country on there a little bit. I think he might be doing a little bit of his Matthew McConaughey.
Really? Yeah. Oh,
He does his Matthew McConaughey
That's
impersonation.
Right. He does
and
good.
I think he went to McConaughey and then backed off just to Tommy Jones.
Well, at first I was
he's
like,
yeah.
what's he
Yeah.
going for there? And I thought Josh Brolin in Men
Right.
in Black 3.
Yeah,
And then it was
exactly.
like, wait.
Yeah.
So he's doing, but there's.
Or almost like No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If I don't come back, tell my mama I love her.
Yeah.
You know your mama's dead. Well, then I'll tell her myself.
There was.
We're just gonna do movie lines.
There's just,
now.
yeah, that's fine.
No, I'm sorry.
Well, speaking of, there's one line where it was like, oh man, that's what he's doing, because it was when Henry Ford is like, yeah, go do what you gotta do, and he
Right.
basically gives him the permission.
Yeah.
And he says something along the lines of like, nothing big. It's
Right.
just
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that kind
And it
of-
was just
yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's
totally Tommy Lee
that's
Jones.
so funny.
That's like the way he said it, how
Yeah.
he like just walked off after it, everything. It was fantastic.
I think there's plenty of heart in this movie.
Yeah.
And so I think if people are like watching the trailers or commercials or going, it's about racing. Again, it's like Moneyball or any movie that's like, you don't have to be a baseball fan to appreciate Moneyball,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, like
Because
I said at the
it's
top,
it's such a human story.
Yeah.
And so if you know nothing about racing, if you care nothing about racing, you'll care about these people.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have no
Right.
attachment to it. I know nothing about that world.
Right.
And so, going into it, like, I wasn't going into it for the racing. I was going into it because I like James Mangold as a filmmaker, and you've got Christian Bale and Matt Damon headlining. So it's just like, oh, yeah, I'm interested to see what it's about.
But if you do like racing, holy cow.
Yeah.
Right? They put you in the car.
They do.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it feels.
We should, say, like, some of the racing sequences are just,
Right.
yeah, like, I mean,
They feel dangerous.
yeah.
Right? They
That's-
they don't feel like so overly produced that you're like, you're present.
Yeah.
You're not removed from it.
Yeah,
And,
and because you care about these guys,
Absolutely.
and like it even gets down to the level of you're like, oh gosh, I hope when they did the pit stop, I really hope they got those tires on there.
Exactly
really
right.
good. Like
Yeah.
the faith and
Right.
like trust that they put in
Absolutely.
these machines
Yeah.
is nuts.
And again,
Like,
these 24-hour races where it's
Yeah.
like you're driving for, somebody else is driving for, you're taking naps.
I didn't
then I'm
even know
getting-
that was
yeah.
a thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess kind of, bringing it full circle, like big themes. Obviously, it's kind of like about ego and the egos of men and how they kind of, we kind of talked about how they'll get in the way of their own goals and ambitions. But I just loved how Christian Bale's character was so pure. He didn't need an ego because he knew how good he was, and he just they talk about him being pure, maybe too pure, and it's true, but it's not like negative in any sense, because he didn't have to have it. He just knew how good he was, knew how intelligent he was, and he just took it and ran with it, and he walked the walk, essentially, I guess you would
It's
say.
going to sound like I'm damning it with faint praise, but we were kind of joking with some of your crew here about people trying to make spiritual applications of movies, but this is the kind of movie that I think will be shown at men's retreats, at churches and in psychology workshops and that kind of thing, because you do have this kind of, Henry Ford II's got real daddy issues.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And he's working them out, and he's not even shying away from it, right? He's talking about it.
Yeah.
And Christian Bale is that, I'm so driven, I'm so right, and everybody else is wrong, and that's one kind of ego, that's one kind of self-confidence.
That's true, yeah.
Josh Lucas has a whole other brand, right? That's just poorly motivated and so selfish and narcissistic. And so there's kind of this spectrum of really interesting emotional lives of men.
Where do you think Shelby falls on that
I think he
spectrum?
just kind of falls in that. He's always in a struggle.
Yeah.
I think the frailty that he has, which gets introduced pretty early in the movie.
And they don't play that.
No, they don't
that.
overplay it.
No, yeah.
No, but I think it is one of those things where it's almost like his Achilles heel, right? Where it's almost like, I know what I was capable of. I'm not anymore. I found a way to make it in this life, but I'm not washed up.
Right.
He's not like the proverbial drunk coach that's trying to make a comeback that has fault. It's not that deal. He's just dealing with.
He's not Jimmy Dugan.
Yeah, it's not. This is my new reality.
Right. Yeah, which
and
is.
I'm making the best of it.
That's tough to do.
Absolutely.
Tough to come to terms with. So. Yeah.
And I think he has such an interesting emotional arc himself. That character.
No, yeah, he really
where
does.
he starts and where he ends. Really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean,
and heartbreaking.
He opens the movie. It is hard. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I mean, he opens the movie. So to see where he is at the very beginning until that.
The very end.
He's almost in every shot of this movie.
I think you're exactly right. That's really true.
I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. But he's so good. It's just a reminder of how. Matt Damon's good. This movie's good. If you are have the slightest bit of interest, I would definitely recommend.
If you like movies.
If you like movies
about interesting characters. If you like cinema, because it's
a rousing. Even if you just like a rousing sports drama,
if you're just into that.
I mean,
you got all that.
It's a total package in a sense of a big screen experience that to go along with the Scorsese commentary.
Right.
Yeah, movie theaters don't make a whole lot of room for this type of movie anymore, and that's what I think we're kind of the miscommunication.
Go see this movie because if you want.
Yeah, if you
more
want
of these
like
movies,
this,
you got to go see these.
Yeah,
and thank goodness we got to see it in the theater tonight. It's still my favorite way to see a movie. Is in a theater, and this is a great movie to see in a theater.
Yeah. No. That being said, the whole kind of premise of initial reaction here is, we just came out of the theater, just watched Ford vs. Ferrari, so we tend to do a out of 5-star rating based on this initial reaction. I'm gonna go a solid. I'm right there on the line between 4 and 4.5. I really kind of loved it. I want to see it again. I'm going to go ahead and go 4.5 right now. It may be one of my favorites of the year so far, honestly.
I think want to see it again is a really good indicator of how many stars it should get.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Rewatchability, huge factor for sure.
So I have no problem. It's between 4 and 5 for me too.
Yeah.
And I would just say, and again, this is being a little picky. I love everything about this movie. I think maybe I was just seeing it a little late in the day and kind of thinking about, I was maybe trying to get ahead of it a little bit and kind of think, how are they going to pay this off?
Yeah.
So I think now that I've seen it, I could really rest into watching it.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
it'll play like
Right,
cleaner,
exactly.
and you'll like.
But
connect
listen,
it a little.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it on every level. So
Yeah,
I would say 4.5 stars is more than fair.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. It's just.
I don't think you're kissing up to James Mangold to give him 4.5
No,
stars.
I mean I I didn't love Logan as much as everybody. I like. Logan
I said
a lot.
Wolverine, but it's Logan, right? Yeah.
But I love Walk the Line. I know it's kind of like the
great.
standard biopic, but that movie just hit me at the right
Sure,
age,
absolutely.
right time, and so
great
I'm
opening scene.
always. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That Sam Phillips line or that
Oh,
whole
yeah,
monologue
exactly
he
right.
has. It's one of my favorites of
Yeah.
all time. It's so good. So yeah, anytime Mangold has something, and especially when it's an original movie based on a true story on this scale, it's something I'm going to look forward to. And again, if any of this sounds appealing, definitely seek this movie out on the biggest screen you can find. It's
Agreed.
definitely worth it. On that note, I want to say thank you to Movie Tavern. I want to thank them for letting us see the movie here, letting us shoot the show here. They let us come in and see movies every week. So if you have a Movie Tavern near you, definitely check out Ford vs. Ferrari on one of their big screens. And thank you again, Tim, for joining us. I appreciate it.
It was great.
I know
Appreciate
it was.
the invitation.
Yeah, no, anytime. Anytime you want to talk movies,
All right.
more than welcome. More than
Sounds
welcome.
good.
So I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
No, good.
But thank you as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Here on Tavern Talk, we try to do a new review of the biggest release every week. So definitely hit that subscribe and notification button because you will get those every week as we have a new review. We'll see you next week with another one.
I have a good friend in LA who's a manager, a talent manager named John Brown, and John loves cars.
Okay.
And he's like got a Facebook page, and John's dad, by the way, was the agent that made the deal for Psycho. That's how far back he goes.
Oh, wow.
So he loves like Southern California car culture.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, like, I don't know cars and I'm not a big
Right.
car fan, but like people who really are into cars love this movie. 'Cause
Really?
It's
Okay.
legit and authentic.
Yeah.
So like John told me, he was like, oh my God, like the Ferrari stuff is fantastic.
Wow.
Because Enzo Ferrari's a god in that world.
Right, yeah.
So anyway.
And that, that was another line
Yeah.
by Bernthal, like talking about legacy and
Right.
everything. And it doesn't dig into that too deep, but that's what he's gonna be known for, making the best
That's right.
cars ever created. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. And yeah, I mean, you could have said all of that was BS.
Right,
and
exactly.
I would
All
have known
made up.
any
Exactly,
difference.
right, yeah.
But I was still
Yeah.
invested in it. I was
Right.
still in it.